So time is up, and please return to your seats. I'd like to introduce our guests. Right at the far end, we have Benjamin Sixou, who we knew as a musician to start with, and quickly he began to work for the cinema. We've seen him in big productions where he's been a hero. We have seen him a lot in a number of films where he was a singer, for example, in Toi, moi et les autres. And with Arnaud Desplechin, he had a small part in one of his films as well. And now you're in Brother and Sister. Patrick Timsit. I'd like to introduce him, but you know him all. He has an incredible career that dates back from the 80s, and in the 90s he started to act a lot, so he's a very well-known actor. He has acted a lot in the cinema for many years now. In the 90s, An Indian in Town, many other films, and he's also directed films. And he plays dramatic roles in films like The Cousin, Alain Corneau, or Rue des Plaisirs, and others. On his right, Marion Cotillard, who's quite extraordinary, of course, as an actress. She's an international star. She's won Oscars, Caesars, Golden Globes for La Môme. She's been in films with the best-known directors around the world, so she's often come up the red carpet here in competition. Nicole Garcia's film, the Dardenne Brothers as well, James Gray, etc., etc. She appeared briefly in Arnaud Desplechin's film, How I Got Into an Argument, and she also had a big role in Ismail's Ghost, which was here in Cannes 5 or 6 years ago. Next to Arnaud Desplechin, I'll continue with the actors. We have Melville Poupeau, who began his career as a child. When he was 10, he worked with Raoul Louise, and he's been in all these sections in Cannes before being in competition with a number of films. Likewise, he's also a great director, Eric Romer, Un Conte d'été, and so on. He has worked often with François Ozon on Le Refuge, Le Temps qui Reste. In 1985, he was in Cannes. It should have been in Cannes in 2020. You know, the festival didn't take place, so the film had the Cannes label. And as Melville has all talents, he's a musician, he writes texts, and he makes films, so he is a very accomplished artist. And on his right, Cosmina Stratton, who you all know, because Cosmina already got the Best Actress award in 2020 for Beyond the Hills by Christian Monjou, who's competing this year. And another film was Shelley by Elia Abbasi, which is also competing this weekend with Holy Spider.
Avec nous aujourd'hui, et puis évidemment au centre de la
table. In the middle of the table, we have Arnaud Desplechin, who we can define as a child of Cannes.
Dès la vie des morts à la semaine de la critique en 91, mais
he was at the Semaine de la Critique, and he was in competition as of his first feature film. He's been in competition as of his first feature film, The Sentinel, in 92. And then, of course, we had Esther Kahn, Christmas Tale, Jimmy P., Oh Mercy, Ismail's Ghost. There was a Grand Prix last year, and we had also Playing in the Company of Men. He's had many films in Cannes at the Director's Fortnight and elsewhere. We're very happy to see him back. My first question is for you. With this film, you talk about a family story which was already present in La Vie des Morts and in A Christmas Tale, in addition to Kings and Queens. Why have you reverted to this theme after a film like Oh Mercy or Deception? You've come back to your initial vein and the We Are Family. I shot 2 adaptations, Oh Mercy Hypocrisy and Deception. These were adaptations of Document de Moscou, for example. And after Oh Mercy, I thought I'd like to return to my original topics. In A Christmas Tale, we had the story of a sister who was very angry at her brother, and the sister remained melancholic on the balcony, and I thought, could another film repair the situation, find a way out, a solution to this dilemma? You mentioned many of my films, and I once said that I make films that are too long. For example, How I Got Into an Argument lasted 3 hours. I wanted to focus this time on just one question and solve the problem. The acting, the shooting, I wanted everything to point to a way out. That's what I wanted to portray. I'd already visited this story, but I visited it in a different manner. I visited it in a very obsessional way. In terms of the family, for my work, I was reading the introduction to a Chekhov book, and I realized that all Chekhov's play, according to the preface, concerned family stories. And I thought, well, if Chekhov did that, so can I. We'll take a question. Hello? Colombia. I have a question, one for Mr. Desplechin. You chose to resolve this problem of hatred that we've seen in many of your films. At the end, it's a surprise to see the brother and sister together. They fell over each other in the supermarket. It was quite a surprising end. And Marion, how did you prepare for this part as an actress? In fact, she has a lot of love, this character, for her family. But sometimes you get the impression she needs love, she needs recognition, the recognition of her parents. She's a bit jealous of her brother. Perhaps you had a vacuum because you were in search of the love of your brother, and this created a vacuum, whence the need for recognition from others. You were talking about the word hatred, which is a terrible thing. I'm thinking of the scene between Cosmina and Marion, and she said, one day I was 20 years old, and I think I hate you. She's terrified by this feeling. She never forgives herself for this hatred. I think hatred is the unfortunate opposite of feverish love, because when I look at the film, I see this feverish love, which is overwhelming for a man. A journalist said to me one day, talking about this scene where she says, I'm pregnant once again, she's going to have a child. So she has to be independent in her life. And in the supermarket, you have that scene where they stumble over each other, and I didn't want people to find this sort of a sickly sweet scene. Marion made me cry when they meet together in the cafe, and she says, I'm sorry, I don't know why, but I like to say I'm sorry. I don't know how she managed to act this, but I knew she was repairing the kind of hurts we all have within us. You said quite a lot of things, so I don't know whether I fully understood your question. When you prepare for a part, how do I explain the character? I don't know whether I can explain her. I don't judge her either. She's a rough character, rough like a rough diamond. There are very dual feelings within her, opposites. And it's quite interesting in the cinema to have characters who adopt a given stance. Melville's character says this. She was very hard, she has a very bad character, personality, and then suddenly she becomes very gentle and starts to love people. But I think she deeply loves people. She's just never known how to express this. I think she deeply loves her brother, in fact, but she didn't know how to love him. I don't know. She didn't know how to love him as a brother, in fact. I don't know whether I've answered your question. When it comes to preparing for the part, well, in terms of preparation,
chaque préparation est différente sur chaque film.
When you prepare for a character in a film, it's different each time round. I wanted to explore the character's childhood, to understand the character's fears, joys, pathologies, how a being is actually fashioned as the years go by. What I loved preparing for this character was that there were a lot of things I needed to invent. There was a lot of information about this woman, but at the same time, there was huge scope for imagination, and that enabled me to imagine all sorts of things about her, things that I'll keep for myself. One of the things that really amused me is that she's really upset by the fact her brother is writing, and she really wants to know exactly what he is writing. And I had lots of fun writing parts of his book.
C'était vraiment pas sympa.
And it really wasn't nice what he was writing about his sister. That was a delicious moment when preparing for the character. I wondered why she was so upset, disturbed, overwhelmed.
Sûrement des parties de sa vie qu'elle aurait voulu cacher et que lui révèle au grand public.
He revealed a part of her life that she wanted to keep private, hidden from the public eyes. I have a question from Brazil. TV Globo, congratulations on your film, Mr. Desplechin. You talked about Chekhov and his inspiration and his plays. Could you talk to us about the melodramatic aspect of brother and sister?
Je suis pas sûr d'avoir. Vous vouliez dire la dimension mélodramatique.
The melodramatic dimension.
I
like it when feelings are bigger than life. What fascinates me, because I am that way, is when the feelings are bigger than the characters. The characters are totally overwhelmed by something. You talked about melodrama. It's almost tragic. Look at Alice. She's angry. She's collapsed. And these feelings are so great when she sees her brother again that she faints at the sight of her brother. And then Louis, this mourning for his childhood that you see throughout the film, these are feelings that are bigger than he is, and that deeply moves me. We, human beings, we have feelings that are just beyond us. I love melodrama in that respect. And Chekhov?
Chekhov, il y a des rapports de sœurs passionnants dans
Chekhov, there are fascinating relationships between siblings. The cherry trees, for example, very tender love. People would be better really creating their own life. I can't remember the name of the heroes in this play by Chekhov.
En français, ça va être difficile. Mais voyez, dans la cerisée, c'est magnifique.
But in this play, it's wonderful. You have these scenes where the sister is lost, and she pushes her brother to one side, her brother who so loves her. But Chekhov is like Shakespeare. It's infinite. Once you start reading Chekhov, you start at the age of 20, and you finish when you die. Another question?
Je m'appelle Yael, je suis notamment correspondante pour la chaîne d'information en continu belge Hélène.
I work for a Belgian TV channel. Thank you for this magnificent film. The acting is outstanding. I have a question to Melville Poupeau and Marion Cotillard. How, as actors, did you understand the relationship between your two characters?
Moi, j'ai imaginé
personally speaking, I imagine this as a love story and a sort of a Western.
deux bandits ou un shérif et un
two
bandit.
bandits or a sheriff and a bandit who are racing after each other, and they end up in the same city for a decisive duel. And I felt that in this duel, in light of what Arnaud was saying, there's a lot of love, passion, and obsession. It made me think about Moby Dick. Suddenly you have a character who becomes mad about his prey, which is an object of love or obsession. That's how I viewed Marion's character. Whenever we had a scene where we saw each other, despite everything, I was deeply inspired by the role. And I viewed her as an object of love, a lost fiancée in a way.
Dans ce personnage, qui au début et au bout du chemin,
At the
d'ailleurs,
beginning and at the end, in fact, this comes up several times. We have to build up a path, and the path is the path that leads towards reconciliation and light. It was a mixture of many different things for me. I hope I've answered your question.
Oui, immédiatement, j'ai vu
Yes,
ce
right
film comme
away,
un film
I viewed
d'amour.
this film as being a love story.
Et quand on a commencé le tournage,
When
en
we
fait,
started shooting,
j'ai ressenti un besoin
I
assez curieux.
quite a strange
jamais ressenti.
need, which I've never really felt before,
J'ai ressenti le besoin
I felt
de
the
rester très à distance de Melville.
to remain
Généralement,
at a
sur un
distance
tournage,
from
quand,
Melville.
scène, on se parle,
Usually,
on échange des
between
choses
shoots, we come and
de la
talk
vie,
together, we chat,
une familiarité qui arrive
we
assez vite.
know each other quite
J'aime
well
bien
as
rencontrer les
actors,
gens, les
and
découvrir,
I
leur
like to
parler.
learn more about
Avec
people.
Melville,
I
on
like
s'était
to
croisés
talk
un
with
petit peu il y a
people.
quelques années,
In
mais
Melville,
on se
we had an
connaissait
opportunity
pas,
to
en
meet some
fait.
years ago, but we didn't
Et,
know each other all
j'ai
that
eu
well.
besoin de garder cette distance.
Yet I felt in the film that it was necessary to
de pas
remain
avoir
at
de
a
familiarité
distance
entre nous, donc
and
et
not
puis
become
de
too
pas lui
close.
expliquer en plus, donc,
I didn't want to explain things to him in any way.
J'étais assez contente quand à la fin
So
du
I was
tournage,
quite
j'ai pu venir
pleased
le
when
voir en
at
lui
the end of the
disant,
shoot
voilà, pardon,
I could say, I'm sorry,
j'ai pas été,
in a cafe.
j'ai pas été très chaleureuse.
said I
j'ai
wasn't
pas
very
été-
warm.
Carrément, je l'évitais en fait.
In fact, I avoided him on
Quand on
purpose.
était au maquillage le matin,
When we were
je faisais
being
tout
made
pour
up
pas
in
le
the
croiser,
morning,
en fait.
I did my best
Et,
not to ensure that
Et
our
je sais pas,
paths
j'ai
didn't
l'impression
cross.
en tout cas,
I don't
ça
know.
m'a-
I had the
j'aime bien ce que
impression
ça a créé. Et puis maintenant,
that this really created
on peut discuter.
a good feeling, and I'm very pleased now that we
Et ça-
can
ça a été
talk
un
together
moment,
normally.
que j'ai bien aimé aussi.
But I really
de
liked that
créer ça,
moment, creating this
crée un mystère
kind
pour
of
moi,
relationship. It
quelque chose
created
de-
a lot of mystery for me.
Oui, vraiment du domaine de la relation amoureuse aussi.
When it comes to a loving relationship
pas regarder
also,
quelqu'un,
when you
quand on
don't dare
n'ose
to
pas-
look at someone, when you don't dare
Oui, s'aimer,
to
Tout de suite,
love that
regarder
other
ce-
person,
ce moment magique où on va se plonger.
there's that
dans
magic
son
moment
regard,
when
dans le
you
regard de l'autre.
look deep into the other person's eyes.
Melville Poupeau parlait de western.
Melville, you
Et,
talked about a
Arnaud,
western.
j'ai l'impression que vous avez
Arnaud,
quasiment fait
I
une
have
scène
the
de western
impression
tout d'un coup,
you
où apparaît
created
d'ailleurs,
the kind of scene that could
Golshifteh,
appear
faut
in a
quand même
western.
Elle n'est pas avec nous aujourd'hui, mais elle est avec nous par le cœur. Voilà. Et donc, il y avait cette envie de mettre une petite scène
You
western.
wanted to have this scene which resembled a western.
Pas de Garrett et Billy the Kid. qui est un
You're
film
talking about Billy the Kid, for example. That's a wonderful story. It's a story of murder and love. Indeed, I wanted to see Patrick on a horse. He promised me that he knew how to ride, so I said, I'll put you on a horse, and we talked about the two fiancés. Here's Louis and
qui est Lucia. Donc,
Lucia.
J'aimais bien qu'il soit aussi qu'il y a un côté buddy movie, quoi.
I liked this side of things. Suddenly, Alice could talk because there was that other woman. And in your couple, it's like in a Western, when you get off the horse, all of a sudden there's this strong relationship, almost an amorous relationship between the two men. It's a strong moment, and I wanted this to take place in a forest lost in the middle of a hidden valley and see him on a horse. For me, it was something from Clint Eastwood.
Alors justement, j'ai une question là-bas.
There's a question in the room.
Good morning. Hello, good morning. Over here. Hello. Tim Burrows, Fab UK Magazine. I speak in English, so not my fault. I saw the film last night. I loved the performances. You guys were all fantastic. I love Benjamin's character, the brother. Spot on, perfect acting, perfect character. But the first 10 minutes are so dark. I mean, the film is actually very dark. Where does that come from as a director? I mean, the first 10 minutes are like really full on. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Est-ce que vous voulez que je vous réponde en français?
Do you want me to speak French? Do you have a headset? Because my English is horrible, and I have two good English speakers next to me, so I don't want to feel ashamed. Can you follow me in English? Otherwise, if I answer in English, I may be totally ridiculous. No, go ahead, answer in French.
C'est vrai que j'ai eu envie
It's true that with this film, I wanted
à tout ce qui peut me terrifier dans la
to
vie.
deal with things that terrify me in
J'ai une
life.
vie très protégée, beaucoup
I
plus
have
protégée
a
que celle de mes
very
personnages.
protected life, much more protected than my characters. I'm very lucky. I have my two parents, and I can't imagine they're passing away. But I thought I must tackle these questions. I had a name. Thierry Frémaux gave me the microphone last night. This is now a ritual in Cannes. We have to take the floor. The only words that came to me were that I think that films help to repair tears that we don't know how to fix in life. Truffaut said,
les films, ils sont mieux faits que la vie.
films are better than life. Life is overvalued. Films are undervalued. It's life, but in a better way. Life told better. So I like to address terrifying topics. I was talking about the fear of Alice and Louis, and bit by bit, I wanted the film to reach for the light. That's the target. Everything that's terrifying, hatred, anger, death, bereavement. At the end, Louis, who said he'd never give a class again, he gives a class, he's with students, and he's smiling. And Alice is on a bed in Africa, and she says, "Oh, I feel much better." And we work towards the light. And that's what cinema is all about.
Bonjour, ici Cathy Melen de la
Cathy
RTBF,
Melen,
télévision publique belge. J'ai deux
Belgium.
questions pour Patrick
I have two
Timsit.
questions for
C'est toujours un
Patrick
plaisir de vous
Timsit.
voir au
It's
cinéma
always a
et le
pleasure
grand
to see
public
you
est
in a
habitué,
film.
évidemment, de vous voir
Audiences are
dans vos
accustomed to
comédies.
seeing you in
Moi, même si
comedies.
j'adore vous
I
découvrir
also,
dans
I
les
love to
drames.
see you
Je
in
voulais savoir comment
dramas.
vous avez envie de guider votre carrière par la suite.
How do you want to
Si,
guide your career
l'envie de
in the
films plus
future? Do you want
dramatiques et
more
plus
dramatic,
auteurs est en vous. Et je voulais
more
savoir si je me trompe pas,
art
c'est la
house
première fois que
films
vous
now?
présentez un
If I'm
film
not
en
mistaken,
compétition.
this is the first time
Votre
you've been in a
sentiment
film in
après la
competition.
projection
What's your
hier
feeling
soir et
after
le
the
fait d'être
screening
ici
yesterday
avec
evening?
aussi
What about the fact you're here with such a wonderful team?
Donc oui, c'est la première fois.
Yes, it's the first time that I've been in competition.
J'ai analysé ça quand même.
I analyzed this.
Avant, je montais avec des films pour
In
fêter
the
les
past,
succès, que ce soit les.
I was in very successful films.
C'était des contre-fêtes, c'était du festival de Cannes off.
But it was like the off Cannes Festival.
On est plus inquiet pour ce qu'on va mettre.
Of course, you're much more worried here as to how you're going to dress. That's the first thing that struck me. What's the biggest difference is that I wasn't sure what I was going to wear. But it was such a huge pleasure to be with them all again. I know these are usual things people say, I thank the team, etc. But when it's really true, it's even better. So quite frankly, I'm like in a dream. The first thing I said to Arnaud when I saw him here, I said, well, you should try not to be selected in Cannes. We can have just so much fun because he's so stressed. And I said, you be less stressed. The producer said, well, I was just in my element. Yes, it's a huge source of pleasure to be here. My mother was in the room. She's 93. I was so lucky. My sister, too, who asked me a question like, well, our relationship isn't all that complicated, but I thought about it throughout the night, and then I thought, what on earth was she driving at? Is it complicated for her, too? And the other question was what? I don't calculate my career. My only calculation is whether this gives me pleasure or not. When I get a script, I feel very proud. And my family is always very happy for me. They say that's fantastic.
Et donc après, il y a une grande peur.
then I feel afraid often. But my choice is based on pleasure. I don't calculate as a person. I wouldn't swap my place for anything, obviously.
J'aime bien aussi, ça devient un peu mon rôle, où on ne sait plus trop où me situer, alors on est surpris de bonheur. Mais,
like to ask all sorts of questions. Am I in the right place here? Should I be Jean-Claude Van Damme? I don't know. And then I'm working with Arnaud Desplechin. It gives me huge pleasure to work with Arnaud. He doesn't have the same problems as I do. He doesn't feel that he's lost in any way. He's just simple. We felt very much at home when we were together. We drank a coffee together the first day. Oh, no, it was fresh orange juice. Well, Arnaud Desplechin is very rigorous as well. He's a wonderful director. He gets exactly what he wants. He doesn't have a huge amount of authority, but he gets just what he wants. And when I came on the set, I had this character who was a very traditional character, but who is beyond history, in fact. I've often suffered a lot in comedies and in dramatic films. I've often had lots of fun. With Alain Corneau, for example, we've had very strong emotions. I have a question for Cosmina. Were you familiar with Arnaud Desplechin's films? And how did you prepare for your part? When I see your character, it makes me think about a film by Cassavetes. And you have this character, this young woman, who is in the rain, and she comes to see the actress she loves.
Cassavetes est toujours en référence pour moi.
Cassavetes has always been a reference for me. I'll try to give my answer in French. It may be a bit of a disaster, but never mind. Feel free to speak English. Well, I'll try in French.
Pour moi, cette histoire m'a apporté beaucoup de joie.
I had great joy being in this film. Meeting Arnaud and Marion was wonderful. And it's a very important thing in my life. Admiring Marion is not too difficult. That was the easiest part of the character to portray. I regret that I didn't have a horse, like Patrick. That's my sole regret.
Le personnage, je sais pas.
The character, I don't know.
Avec la langue, c'était très
I struggled with the language. That was very real. But I got a lot of help putting together this character. Marion and Arnaud helped me a great deal. It's a very moving story. I don't know how I built up the character. It was very strange for me. But I was eager to embark on this voyage of discovery. Cassavetes is always an influence for me. I'm a journalist at Radio G. I loved the sequence in the synagogue, the day of the Great Pardon. Why did you introduce this Jewish dimension of pardon in the film?
La dimension juive, elle compte pour moi, je crois, dans tous mes films.
I think is present in all my films.
There's
something rather silly. I was thinking of a film on pardon, and if there wasn't a scene from Yom Kippur, the film would be a flop. It wouldn't work. It's true. How can you make a film on pardon without that kind of a scene? Okay, I've read a number of things about all this. And I read about the Yom Kippur ceremony in a book. Yom Kippur is not spectacular, but you have these verses which are recited and your brother, your father, God is eternal. And I thought the meaning of these words is absolutely wonderful. I don't want to comment, of course, on the Torah, but this is what it's all about. They clearly love each other in almost an incestuous way, and I thought it was wonderful that the psychiatrist said there are certain things that are forbidden. Incest is forbidden. And Melville views this as a kind of an enigma. And then we move over to Marion, who's just finishing on stage. And then there's the line, "Oh, I feel so hungry." And the scene of Yom Kippur is so very beautiful. I thought, why not have such a spectacular scene in my film? You suddenly see this friendship which teaches people something and which invites people to make certain decisions. That's what I wanted to say about the Yom Kippur scene. I have a question for Benjamin Sixou. You're back again with Arnaud Desplechin after Souvenir de ma jeunesse. At the time, you had a small part. Did you think, oh, well, I'm sure we'll work together again? What about being a brother? How did you put together your character? Because you're sort of sandwiched between the two. Well, I was in a cloud. It was like being on a cloud all the time. Things went very smoothly, and I dreamt, I hoped strongly that I'd be able to work with Arnaud again, because I had a fleeting part in Souvenir de ma jeunesse. I had wonderful memories of working with them in that film. There's a very precise text in this film, but it leaves a lot of scope when it comes to acting and really embodying the character and adding certain things. Things are very precise at the same time, down to the very last comma. So we have a very solid foundation for going about our work. We have a strong frame. This makes one feel very free. And that's how I experienced things every day when we were shooting. We knew exactly where we were supposed to be going, where he wanted us to go, while being told, well, do as you like. Of course, I was very keen on all the proposals he made. It was wonderful. The sound, the image. It was very interesting to hear all the suggestions being made. So it was a pleasure.
Il m'a semblé, j'aimerais parler de Fidèle parce que eux, j'arrive pas à m'identifier parce qu'ils sont
I'd like to talk about Fidel. They're really bigger than life, these characters. They're really beyond me. And the character, I like to identify with marginal characters. I loved Fidel, and when we met with Benjamin, I said, you'll be Fidel, because they're moved by terrible passions, and they lose their sense of humor. And Fidel's smile really lights up the film, because we have this abusive older brother and the sister who's so preoccupied. And it's the smile of Fidel that really bolsters everyone throughout the film. Your smile plays a very important part. One very last question. I'm terribly sorry. We'll have to stop after this last question.
Questions for Marion. Marion, my name is Roman and I'm from Ukraine. As a director, I'm interested in your work on roles. Do you work according to any specific acting method, maybe Stanislavski, Mikhail Chekhov or Lee Strasberg? Or do you not use a specific method but combine all your knowledge and all your experience to work on a new role? And the second question, what roles attract you and most as an actress? What does it take to get you interested?
Alors, non, j'ai pas vraiment de méthode.
I don't really have a method, a pre-established method. What I was saying earlier on was that what's in common with the way I prepare all my parts is to explore the childhood of the character. Of course, it depends on the director who you work with.
Il y a des réalisateurs ou des réalisatrices qui ont besoin de répéter.
Need to rehearse a lot.
J'ai adoré ça. Par
And I love that.
les Dardennes,
For example, with the Dardenne brothers, we rehearsed the film from beginning to end with the right settings, with the costumes on, and with the actors.
Ça permet d'explorer différemment.
That makes it possible to explore things differently.
Maintenant, la méthode, elle vient vraiment aussi de... comment expliquer ça?
How can I explain this?
En fait, je sais jamais vraiment comment
fact,
ça va venir. Je vais toujours commencer par.
Really know how to go about things. I usually start.
Je ne vais pas être trop vague ou mystique.
Oh, I don't want to be too vague or mystical. I try to connect with the character. That's how I start.
Je vais me rendre disponible à un instant, à un moment,
to
à un instant.
Be very available at a given point in time at that very instant.
Ouais, mais on aurait pu dire.
I try to be open.
Oui, tu fais des maths, oui.
Donc.
So anyway.
Voilà, oui, une ouverture.
Yes, I try to be very open.
Où on se connecte avec ce personnage.
I try to connect with the character, the mystery.
Comme une première rencontre, une rencontre amoureuse.
A first encounter with someone who you will grow to love. You discover someone.
Chaque personne qu'on rencontre est différente.
Each person you meet is different. Each part you play is different as well. So this meeting will take place in a different way each time round.
J'ai besoin de cette période
I
de
need this preparatory period to meet my character and explore the character. It's quite a strange situation because you actually melt into somebody else. You become somebody else.
La non-méthode.
It's a kind of a non-method
avec le personnage.
When I go about preparing a character.
Et puis la deuxième question.
And then you had a second question, I believe.
Les rôles.
The parts.
Ah, qu'est-ce qui m'attire dans un rôle?
What attracts me to a given part?
Qui soit différent de ce que j'ai fait
avant. I like all of my parts to be different.
Jusqu'ici,
up until now, I've never really played the same kind of character twice. Apart from the times it was the very same character in Les Petits Mouchoirs and Taxi, for example. These are characters which you see in several films. I need my characters to be different each time. I want them to be as different from me as possible, even if sometimes it's interesting to play a character who's similar to you.
Une manière d'incarner quelqu'un qui me ressemble.
It's interesting to embody someone who resembles you. It's more difficult for me, but it's also a worthwhile exercise.
Si je lis un scénario et que
when I read a script and feel totally obsessed with it from day one, that's why I may choose this or that film. And Arnaud sent me the script, I read it right away, and I called him up immediately.
Comme si ça rentrait dans
it was
moi, tout de suite, dans mon sang.
Already part of me. The part. The cinema as an obsession. That could be the beautiful conclusion of this press conference. Thank you very much indeed. You have our strong applause.